Good morning. This is Kathy Sparrow, and with some technical difficulty, I think we're all on the same page now. I have my guest, Pete Winiarski, off to the side, and I'm hoping he'll be able to call in. We actually had a couple links going, a couple different ones, and I'm not sure how, but that's what happens when we try something new. Sometimes there are little blips in the screen that kind of come along, and I'm going to send Pete a message to have him call in here. It's just part of, I think it goes along with just starting something new. We just always have different hurdles we have to come across. And, well, I guess the big thing is we've trying. We're not letting ourselves stop. Ooh. And he's in, I think. Yes, he is. All right. It's coming in.
Ta-da!
Can
you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hey, I think we get the Perseverance Award today.
I hope so.
I didn't realize we had a couple of different links going.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was on, I tried to go Chrome and then didn't work. So I went Safari, then it kicked me back to Chrome and I think it's like 10 logins so far.
Hey, we got it though. We got it. So, and I was actually started to have a little recording going on the other side. Maybe I'll go back in and finish that one. But I was talking about the project that it started formulating about 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
It was a conversation with several of our Train the Trainer colleagues from Jack Canfield's groups. And I resisted. I resisted spearheading this project in the beginning. I remember several people going, "Hey, you should coordinate a book project." And I went, "Oh no, I don't want to do this." And I think I knew along the way there'd be some hurdles, somewhat like we went through this morning. And even though it's taken some time, we've jumped through those hurdles. We're going to have a launch in September now. It's in layout and we're starting to build the platform.
Right. And now I know how much work it actually takes. Oh my goodness. We just, separate project, but just finished a, collaboration book project. Well, and it's in the middle. It's at the publisher for this other thing that we're doing with, the Business Consultant Institute. And we've got, I don't know how many authors, 15, I think, authors. Mm-hmm. And holy cow, to go and get 15 chapters from 15 different people. Oh man, did we learn some lessons there. And some of the folks actually in the end, 2 or 3 of them didn't make the cut. They didn't get their materials in, and they took a pass. Now we've got another collaboration book coming up and we are going to put the strongest, firmest deadlines in place. This is, you want it, you got it. You got to get here. Because really, as we learned, it's a lot of work to be the coordinator person. And if you can get everyone to do their part and do it on time, then the amount of work is still a lot, but it's a little bit easier because you're not chasing people. And so we're going to see if we can simplify that next time around.
Yeah. And I think really what I found out is in learning more about my own leadership skills is all of you are my friends in this book. Right. And so I was wishy-washy in my deadlines. Somebody would say, "Hey, I got stuff going on, and I'm struggling and I can't do this." And then I stretch it a little bit because I really wanted to include everybody. And we had some that, dropped out, either because they didn't get their chapters in or because they had their chapters ready, but the project didn't move along. And so I learned a lot of lessons. And yes, if I ever do this again, and I probably will, I'm a writer, love books. I will, but I'll have, be stronger in my deadlines, absolutely stronger in my deadlines, saying, this is the way it goes. And I've had to, as a university professor as well, I've had to really put the, hammer down and about attendance and things like that. because it's like it's my job to get you through this class and you've got to show up. So learning to be, I think this project helped me be a little more stringent.
Let me tell you the attendance story. Hey, I'm hearing it, so hang on. I'm not sure if it's mine.
I'm going to, maybe mine too.
Well, do you hear it okay here? Let me just check my settings on sound. I don't want to be echoey. Let's see. Try that. Can you hear me okay that way?
Yep.
All right. And that way?
Yep.
Okay. No echo anymore. So that's better. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
Meryl says we both sound fine. So we're good.
All right. Excellent. Thank you, Meryl. So attendance. So I'm manage a little league team, and the season's just wrapped up now. But what I've learned in the last, this is all about a lesson and then apply the learnings. Because if you don't apply the learnings and you just go with it the same as ever, then you missed an opportunity. Right. And so as the manager of a bunch of 11 and 12-year-old kids, that's only one variable. The other variable, who do you think it would be?
Oh, the parents.
The parents, exactly. And oh my goodness. So day one, we have we have the parents meeting. We talk with all of the kids and all the parents together. And I shared at that point in time that I track attendance and I will make lineup decisions with attendance in mind. I said, every manager on the planet does this. If kids miss practice the day before a game, they move the lineup around accordingly. It happens. And I am being courageous enough to share this with you on day one. I'm just telling you, if your kid misses a lot, it's going to hurt the team. And so I don't want to reward that behavior. I don't care if you're the superstar on the team. I don't want to reward the behavior. I'll move you around in the lineup. And so I said that, and then I tracked it. I tracked every practice, every game, kept it in the same spreadsheet, and I posted it on the dugout wall.
Ooh.
Posted it on the dugout wall. And so, I had this one kid who was really, really a great player who was there about 50% of the time because he played in another sport, in another league. I had another guy who played on another baseball team. He played soccer and baseball. In fact, on our Saturday night games, we were his fourth game of the day.
Oh my.
This kid was like he was so exhausted, right? And that's a function of you could get into, overcommitting and, I totally get it. You're a kid, you want to go all out. But in terms of leadership and the leadership principles in this, leaders lead something, a group, a team, right? Whether it's managing a little league team, or you are the leader of your corporation, whether you are the leader of some group in your community, you're the leader of your household, or, all of these things. You have opportunities, all of us, whether we have a title or not, we have the opportunity to step in and play a leadership role at different points in time. And so what this was in this example is recognizing that the team is going to be better if people actually show up.
Yeah.
Pretty fundamental. If you don't show up for your job, eventually you get canned.
Right.
But you don't fire a kid off of the little league team. And the honest truth about impacting the lineups is it didn't. It's not like people ended up batting in spots or playing in spots that they shouldn't. But when you have to make decisions of all right, everybody's got to sit the bench once today, and somebody's got to sit the bench twice. Mm-hmm. Well, who do you think the prime candidates are? But the kids who aren't showing up as much, right? That's the sort of thing. They're minor things, and as I said, every manager on the planet makes these little decisions, but they may not make them so consciously. And I just simply shared that I want you guys to know that this is happening, and I'm going to be watching, and I want people to show up on time, and I want you to show up. And what I've always done is, if you communicate well with me and I know that you're going to be here or not, then I can make adjustments. The worst thing is you make a lineup and you show up and you're like, wait a minute, I got 12 kids on the team. Why are there only 10 here? And then it's like, oh no, and you're scribbling a quick replacement last minute. And obviously these things happen, but again, back to the leadership lessons, it has to do with preparation. It has to do with communicating expectations, and it has to do with giving feedback. And then obviously you do have to sometimes make some adjustments, but preparation, communication, and feedback, are critical. We could write a chapter just about that. I mean, I've actually thought, oh my goodness, I'm so packed with, I think I've got 3 books going right now, 2 movies going right now. Never mind like managing all of the consulting clients. It's just, there's a lot, but the ideas and lessons learned from the Little League team, I could turn that into, the metaphor for leading your business or leading just leadership in general, right? There's so many different ways we can cut it up.
Right. Well, I guess if you think about it, it doesn't have to be a book. It could be a short little article, right?
If I think about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, just in our conversations between, I guess it was yesterday we talked, and then this morning, you actually have a couple of different. You talked about gratitude as a leadership strategy. We were mentioning that yesterday too. But
yeah, just that's a keynote I've done a few times, and I was just on a webinar with the Social Buzz Club. They have a virtual training series, and that's pretty cool. That's Laura Rubenstein, by the way, Kathy, who's a neighbor of yours because you're both in the San Diego area. So have you connected with? I know you.
Yeah, at your event in April.
Yes. Yeah. In person. Good.
Yes, in person. And she's part of the EBC.
You're both
Business Council. So.
So make sure you stay connected. And there's probably some things that you could do with her, joining into what she's doing on Social Buzz. And she's got a really good following, and this is an opportunity. I could take these off. Actually, I can still see you.
I got mine.
The opportunity to talk about gratitude as a leadership strategy was a pretty neat conversation that I've done a few times, and surprisingly, that was some of this stuff. We think about it, or we don't think about it. You kind of know it to be true, and you practice it.
Yeah.
And then in conversation and dialogue, someone says, "Oh, that's really interesting. Would you come present on that?" I'm like, "Okay, isn't this obvious, right?" And then you get in, and then that came up in dialogue maybe 2 years ago, and was the first time that I presented and created a 45 or 60-minute keynote out of it, because there is so much. There's a lot of data about gratitude. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of data that talks about how much happier, how much more productive. There's data about if by living in a place of gratitude, you actually get more sleep.
Mm-hmm. I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. Happierhuman.com is one source. What was the name of the book? Let me see if I can find it right here real quick. But there's another great source. Oh, come on. Where are you? The book Thanks by Robert Emmons. The New Science of Gratitude. That's another resource. Stress reduction, all this good stuff that comes. And so as a leadership skill, how leaders pull gratitude into their daily activities is really, really important. And it starts with yourself, and then it's how you expand and interact with other people. And so that gratitude as a leadership strategy is 100% congruent and consistent with the conscious leadership model, which is what the chapter that I've contributed to this book is all about, conscious leadership. And so we're doing quite a bit about conscious leadership these days, not just inside of our clients, but we're getting requests. Hey, tell us more about that. Can you speak about that? We actually have a webinar virtual training that's ongoing right now. So this is live. This Blab session is live. It's Tuesday. So for folks who want to come, completebusinesstransformation.com/next event. And I know you're going to.
Yeah, if you can put it in the chat box.
Let me do that.
We can, because anybody who isn't joining us live can join us.
Complete Business Transformation.com/next event. There we go. I hope I did that right. Did it come through?
I'm looking.
I see a little happy face. I don't see.
I see a happy face. That's all I see is a happy face here.
Well, I even hit enter on that. All right. Well,
we'll make sure. You can text it to me later, and we'll make sure.
I know typing. So complete business transformation is that, what we do as a business, as a consulting company, is we look at business transformation and the results that you are getting versus want to get as an exercise that it's not just a little piece and a little element. I mean, you've got to think about this from a holistic business transformation standpoint. Okay, thank you, Merle. So says the chat box doesn't record, so we're just gonna have to drop it in later. Okay, cool. I won't bother trying to type here. So what's awesome is at completebusinesstransformation.com, we share all of the elements of our thinking and how we actually interact, having worked with and studied and have gone through a number of business transformations that we were part of and led inside of the companies, or played a role outside as the consultants. The book that we're working on right now is all about business transformation. So that's, you pull all that together. Conscious leadership is obviously one of those really, really important pieces of it. So that's where conscious leadership comes in. And the reason we did completebusinesstransformation.com/next event is there's plenty of things that we could be talking about. So that way it's what's the next thing that is scheduled. You can always find it there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I want to go back to a couple things you said. Your chapter title is Conscious Leadership: Leading Others First by Leading Yourself. And how do you lead what are some of the ways that you lead yourself?
Wow. Well, so let me step back and just give a quick conceptual framework of what we talk about with conscious leadership.
Okay.
There's two major components. There's you're conscious of yourself, and then you can be conscious of others. And so within conscious of self, I actually have my little cheat sheet here to make sure I got it right. There's 4 components or characteristic traits of conscious of self, and then there's 4 of conscious of others. So here, the real notes right here. Yep. So conscious of self, you're centered and grounded. Secondly, you have clarity in your life. Thirdly, you're self-aware. And fourth, you're introspective and curious. So, and let me just finish the model real quick. And then conscious of others, you're humble. So as a leader, as you're thinking of your team and other people, you're humble. Secondly, you're trustworthy. Thirdly, you act equally as a coach or a mentor and as a student. So it's not just shoving your opinion towards others. And then fourthly, are engaged and committed to developing teams, because team is the more powerful way to actually play the game of life, of business, of whatever. So back to your question, all right, leading others by leading yourself first. The idea is when you're conscious of self and you start that way, you're developing your own internal skill sets, awarenesses. You understand, the idea of being centered and grounded. It's in this moment. I mean, think of, when the stuff hits the fan, right? And things are going around you. Are you staying present and calm, or are you freaking out? Right? Are you like, oh, dang it, this blab thing isn't working, right?
Right.
It's a good thing we didn't record what I was saying, 45 minutes ago, because very few cuss words, I think, but nonetheless, there was frustration there. I don't
think there were any cuss words, but there was.
Yeah, but it was like, man, why isn't this thing? I click on the button, it's not opening. What's up? And that can be very aggravating and frustrating. So but the ability to work through that starts with being centered and grounded and present, and aware of the different emotions that could be flying around you, and just not allowing them to happen. The idea of clarity. Why am I here? What's my purpose? How is what I'm doing fitting in to the bigger picture. So if I have clarity about that for myself, I can rest confidently. If I have clarity about my values, if I can rest confidently, then I'm going to make the right choices and decisions. So this is you as an individual leader that we're talking about. And then you get into things like self-awareness. This is, this is high on the emotional intelligence scale. So we've all bumped into those people who have low self-awareness, low emotional intelligence. I've been on discussions, maybe they're forums like this or meetings with a client, and you could just sometimes you want to just crawl inside of someone's head and just tweak them a little bit, the way that they're totally unaware of what's coming out of their mouth and the negative impact it's having on the people in the immediate room. And it's like, dude, your choice of words, or you just destroyed that person in front of these 5 other people. What are you doing? Just not the most effective way. And it starts because they're totally not aware and self-aware. And the introspective and curious part is, really recognizing, here we are. This planet just happens to be a place for us to experiment. Life just happens to be this game. And let's see if this strategy works, or if that strategy works better. Whether it's you're trying to grow a business, or you're trying to make more money, or you're trying to have the perfect relationship, or whatever it might be. I'm just trying to really broaden the categories for us. And okay, well, that didn't work very well. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to learn the lessons, and then I'm going to pick up and go from there. What are the lessons learned? And what are the lessons learned about, the book project? Well, goodness, people didn't get their chapters in on time. We're not going to handle it that way again. We're going to take the lesson, and we're going to go forward. And we're going to, put some guidelines together, and we're going to be a little bit more strict with the guidelines. That's what we'll do next time. The movies that we're creating, from all of these interviews, it's the same story. What are the lessons learned from the first movie that it's still in production? My goodness. And we've got the DVD, but the extended cut is still in production. And what are the lessons learned there? Handling with where the editor is far away. It's not like I can't go and hand them a drive. I've got to be sending them stuff virtually. Probably will never meet them face to face. Had conversations on the phone. This is a guy up in Canada, and some of the simple things that you wouldn't think would be challenges, like, okay, mailed the drive up, and it's like, well, I can't get into the files. Like, what do you mean you can't get into the files? They seem to be corrupted. They're like, what do you mean they're corrupted? Whoa. And they're not. But and we have the full set here anyways. We didn't send like all of our material. And he's like, well, the drive you sent is formatted for Mac, and I've got a PC. It's like, oh, geez Louise, really? Nobody told me you were using a PC. Lesson learned. We better be asking those questions ahead of time next time. Simple things. So leading yourself first is getting all of those elements, pretty clearly in place, and having that higher sense of self, sense of your skills and capabilities, your weaknesses, your likes, your dislikes, and having a super high sense of self-confidence.
I lost you for some reason.
Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. Okay. You kind of fuzzed out for a minute, but
okay. So if you can end up with that sense of higher self-leadership, you can now be more effective in your interactions with other people. So let's just use my Little League example. If I'm a totally disoriented, disorganized manager, and I never have a plan, I never show up on time, and I don't communicate well, then how can I expect the other kids to show up on time, the parents to communicate when they've got to miss something, and it's just going to make the whole result that much worse. And then it's probably going to add to everybody's frustration.
Right.
As opposed to starting with, me having my house in order, just to use a cliche, my act together, I've got my processes and I'm acting in integrity. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it, which builds trust. Which one of those conscious of others character traits is to be trustworthy? Trust is built when you do what you say you're going to do, and people can start to rely on the predictability of your actions.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can see how these things start to come together. You work on the self-leadership, and then it enables you to be more effective as you interact with the other people.
Mm-hmm. Good, good. I'm seeing some messages pop up.
Oh, good.
Looked away. Yeah. I like that analogy of having your house in order before you, so you can, if you have a calm sense about you, then it has to kind of like have a ripple effect. If you're clear and intentional, I've never known you not to be. You've been always like,
thank you.
No, really. It's like, it's always been one of those steady presences wherever I've seen you and met you. Even this morning, I mean, we both got a little frustrated, but it wasn't a game changer. It wasn't a game stopper.
Right. And let me share that for a minute, just, for folks who maybe aren't clear. We had some technical challenges. This is my first go at a blab. Is this your first as well?
As a host, yeah.
As a host, yeah.
I was a guest before, so I thought, well, let's just try this.
That ought to be easy, right? We'll throw this together. And so, we did a test run an hour before, which felt like a pretty safe period of time. And next thing you know, and I had a client phone call straight up at noontime. So, for you West Coast people, 9 a.m. And so I have to jump on this conference call. Well, so we're clicking links and struggling and moving over to Chrome and, still clicking links and things aren't opening and opening with Facebook, trying with Twitter. And I'm calling my team over, like, look, am I doing anything wrong? And I'm pressing the button. You can see this little blip on the screen and nothing changes. So I'm like, holy cow. And like trying to figure out what else is there. And we got to the point where just, matter of factly, it's 5 of 12. We've got a decision to make. And the choices are, we can go, move over to a different platform, use Hangouts or something. But that, they're like, well, then, geez, how are people going to find out about it last minute? And so maybe let's stay the course. Kathy, you were able to get on. I wasn't able to get on. So one option is we just do it anyway. Mm-hmm. And Kathy's a solo act, taking the hat and all that. Maybe you have a cane, but still talking about leadership, still talking about the project, but probably not getting into detail about Pete's chapter because Pete's not here. And that's might have been an okay answer. And so, it was a conference call. I got on the call, had it on mute. And then because it was something to try and figure out, the conversation was one where I could listen, but didn't have to contribute verbally. So I went in and still was messing around with Blab and, just clicking and trying and clicking and trying. And magic happened at like 20 minutes past the hour. So I'm like, oh, look. So then I was in. I got logged in through the Twitter account, but it was on the wrong browser. So that's why, it was finally, it appeared like I was on, although I wasn't really on. And, nonetheless, the point is, it would be so easy to take and throw the laptop out the window, right? I'm on the second story. I'm going to open up the window and it's going and it's going to smash down. And it's, because the dang thing isn't working and, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's very easy to have done that. And I'm not immune to frustration. Ask my team. They're downstairs and they'll tell you it's true. But
you acknowledge it and don't let it stop you.
Don't let it stop and allow it, and you just kind of feel it and go through it real quick.
Right.
Let's not pretend we're, whether it's, on the baseball field, kid makes an error, the ball goes through their legs, like, oh, geez Louise, I could react that way very visibly, or say, hey guys, listen, don't worry, get the next out, plays at first base. All right. And it's staying calm and balanced. I mean, this is the little league analogy is so awesome. But I do hope I, commit to this. I'm not sure I will, but it would be really
ability.
I got to be careful doing that live in
Play
front of
off
a bunch.
that fly fishing analogy, too, right?
Oh my goodness, yeah. With Kathy, you have such gold with the fly fishing. Kathy's going to be, this is great. I'm in the book. Kathy's leading. Kathy's going to be in, one of the next books that we do, a collaboration book about, in this case, the consulting. And Kathy, your consulting style with what's innovative about what you do with the fly fishing is just phenomenal, and the lessons learned. It's metaphors for everything, because how you do one thing is really how you do everything else.
Right.
It's just through a different lens. And so, the lens of staying calm in the face of frustration, if you kick dirt and get mad and scream and all that, it's not going to work well. It's going to translate right into these little 12-year-old kids.
Yeah.
And then they're going to crumble and fall apart. And they're way more fragile than you are as an adult. I mean, they're, they make an error. They feel bad. I actually remember back to high school baseball, getting a ride home from a guy who lived near me. A lot of times I just ended up driving with him. And he said, Pete, I don't know how you do it. When you make an error, it doesn't seem to bother you. And then you just make the next play, you make the play. When I make an error, I get so frustrated. And then the next play, I make that error too. And it's true. I think this game, you had like 5 errors in a row, like 5 easy ground balls to shortstops. Like, whoops, there goes another one. And in my mind at the time, I didn't really think about it. I just, okay, I've got a job to do. Whoops, I'll do the next one. So anyways.
It sounds like you had a level of consciousness even then. Like, did maybe drilling it back? I mean, that consciousness has to go into like, what can I do better next time, right?
Digging for my power cord. Ta-da! No, we're good. I think, I don't. Some people say leaders are born. Some people say they're grown, and I do think you can grow leaders. I think you can grow leadership traits. Excuse me. Reaching for the outlet, folks. There we go. All right, now we're juiced. When the little button comes on, it says you're about to lose power.
Yeah, that's probably a good time to plug it in.
You better take action. All right, good. We're on. So, I think you look at people's personality traits. I mean, my 2 sons, totally different, personalities. The older one is very, very calm and steady. Mm-hmm. The younger one is very, emotionally charged, and that could be emotionally good or emotionally frustrated or whatever. And it's not that the older one, Nick, doesn't get frustrated, because he certainly does, but it's a slower burn. Mm-hmm. And it's a slower burn. And then when he does get frustrated, he may kind of stay there for a little while before he comes back. But it's not these wild swings back and forth. The younger one, Nathan, he's got a shorter fuse, and they'll be explosive, but it could be done like that.
Right.
As if nothing ever happened. So, I don't know if those are predictors to what both of them will be like, when they're adults in leadership roles and how they play the game of life. My hope for them is that what they end up doing is they, really applying some of the conscious of self principles, that they build somewhat of a self-awareness, so that they can see how they're behaving, and then they can see the impact that it might have on people around them, make those adjustments, and they learn to do that earlier in their lives. As a high school baseball player, I don't know if I already had that or not. I just kind of did what I had to do, I suppose. But for these guys, they're growing up. They're one's in high school, one's in middle school. This is, those are tough ages. Right. There's a lot of dynamics that are way different than 2 or 3 years ago, which doesn't really seem like a lot of time, but when you're that age, it's a big, big deal. Yeah. So, the message of frustration, you've got to learn, you got to go through things that are frustrating. You have to experience it and go through it and come out safe on the other side. And then you could feel better about next time, I can handle this, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because we can look at failure for, things that get in our way as failures. And yesterday that seemed to be a little topic. I was actually flipping through Facebook last night and saw an Oprah little clip on Oprah, and she was talking about failures and how most of us, when we look at failure, we kind of get crushed, like, that's self-deprecating, beating oneself up. And I've been really good at that for a good part of my life, learning not to, really looking, going now, becoming more conscious, and I have been for a few years, but like, okay, so that's what I learned from that. This little detour happened for a reason. What is that reason? And what's my right next step?
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think this is, tying some of the themes that we've been talking about together, gratitude, but let me start with forgiveness, where we all experience this at some point. I mean, for me, I am my most critical person, advisor, feedback giver. I'm making up words here, Kathy. This is cool.
That's okay. We can make them.
Obviously my level for myself is higher than anyone else. I have a high bar for myself. And so when I don't meet it, I will sometimes fall into that critical mind saying, you dumbass, you didn't do this, right. Whatever. And, or you could have done this better. And we do tend as people to have a certain expectation. And when the expectation's not met, we get upset. That's just part of the formula. My hope is that we learn to become less upset, be more of an observer,
right,
and take the lessons out of it. If you want to be upset, have that be your motivation to do better next time, but not be just something to dwell on. Right. And those are all conscious of self type attributes, by the way, right? So,
right.
So that it's forgiving yourself when you do mess up or when you do get frustrated, and just recognize it's part of the process. And then the living with gratitude. And part of the gratitude and the leading with gratitude, and gratitude is recognizing there's a reframe exercise that as a leader you want to demonstrate, which is the conscious of self part, but then it's also teaching others to do the same thing. So what's the reframe? How do you reframe or reposition in your mind, something that didn't go so well, and find the good in it? And sometimes the good is simply that, thank you for this lesson, right? Thank you for the lesson. But other times, I'm trying to think of what did I screw up on recently? I don't have to go back very far. I can just go back to this morning when I actually left my house. The kids had their last day of school 2 days ago. So they had a bunch of people over last night. And, I was traveling. I was coming back from Pennsylvania. In fact, I was driving in the car when I spoke to you yesterday, and had a board meeting, that I had to go to last evening. And so I didn't actually get home. I walked in the house at 9:45 last night. And, the last few kids are just leaving because, they're not that old. They're kind of young kids. So we don't let them stay all night. But I ended up going to bed like midnight. I've been going to bed, it's the old, short amounts of sleep, for a while here. So I slept in a little bit this morning, took a shower like eight this morning, and, had my stuff pulled together, knew that I had a team meeting at 9:30, and then found myself at like 20 after 9, helping to pick up some of the things that were needed to get returned to a neighbor. The Jenga game. You ever play Jenga?
Yeah.
The block out. You ever play life-size Jenga? That's a fun one.
I haven't. No.
Basically, it's Jenga, but it's with 2x4. So a Jenga piece is this big.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being this really tall stack, and so it's pretty cool. So we had to put that away and return it, and then I zipped to the office, and I got here and realized my laptop bag is sitting in the kitchen.
Oh.
And so, I called Marie and said, hey, what are the chances? She's like, I got to go, man. I have an appointment. So she left. I drove back home, got it. Now this is the good old, Simsbury, Connecticut. So we're not talking about San Diego, California traffic that you might have to deal with. But there's an extra 30 minutes lost. And I'm just
Right.
like, holy cow, man, is this sleep deprivation? And, what's going on? Why am I so absent-minded right now? I'm such an idiot. And then, had my team meeting for a little bit, and then it was time for you and I to get on. And, it's like, I'm pressing the link. Why is the button not clicking? And so, the stories, right? I'm like, the arrow first is pointing to me. Because one of the things, obviously, is accountability and self responsibility. And, I live in that place where, I start with, okay, I'm not blaming other people. It's me. What do I have to do? Mm-hmm. It's not like, hey, your link is broken, but because it wasn't. It was just like, but now I'm thinking to myself, nothing's going right this morning. What is up? Now, I could have chosen to live in the nothing works. Nothing's working for me. I mean, you see this with little kids, right? Nothing works in this world. They drop the cereal bowl on the floor. It's like, why does this always happen to me? Like, wait a minute, always?
Right.
Every time you touch the cereal bowl, it drops on the floor. So watch the absolutes, because those are usually signals. But that's a frustration moment. So the conscious of self is, how do you get through that? What are your individual coping mechanisms that you put in place to get yourself through the experience? And then you can be effective working with other people. But if you stayed stuck in that frustration that nothing's working today, I may as well give up and go home and go suck my thumb in the fetal position or whatever, right? I mean, there's no value to that. But some people do, they mentally, they get themselves all twisted up, and it doesn't work very well.
Yeah. And I must say that during the entire time we were working it out, and I was texting people saying, hey, try this link, and finding out I never felt blamed, even though you knew this was the first time I had to.
Oh, no, it wasn't nothing to do with you.
No blame at all. And that's what's really cool. So as a leader, you really don't project it, even when you were frustrated. And I heard you interacting with one of your team members too.
Like, Christina, help!
Yeah, it was like, coffee, please.
Well, and then she couldn't get it. She was on, and then all of a sudden, it's like, I can't get on now either. Like, oh,
it's just, weird. And and for me, this was a test too. It was like, I could have gotten frustrated, because the other thing that happened yesterday that I found out is, like, I uploaded a new theme for my website and it went live. I didn't know it went live. I just set it to go do that the other night before I went to bed. And then my assistant texted me and said, what happened to your website? This was like 8:00 last night or 7:00, whatever it was. I was making dinner. I went, whoops, guess I know what I'm doing tonight. And it's still not fixed, but you know what? It'll get fixed.
Well, your choice is to do nothing.
Yes, I could do nothing and just let the mess stay there, or I could just say, somebody's going to look at it and think there's a little mistake and it'll get fixed, and that's what'll happen. I'll get to it this weekend.
Yeah.
But there's not any going, oh my God, this is horrible. I could have done that, but it's like, oh, well,
right.
Even this morning, it's like we learned to take those little blips and kind of go, okay, well, what can we do right now? And like you said earlier, I was ready to go on by myself, do the solo act, but you persevered and we were able to come together. So it's perfect. Consciousness. And now you've frozen. I love it. Love it. Just when you talk about, what I'll do is I'm going to log him out again and see if he'll come back in. So technical, well, there he goes. He's going to disappear on me. That's what we do. We deal with some of the technical issues, and it's about being conscious. It's like, I'm just kind of seeing if he'll come back here. It is about rolling with some of the things that come up, those unexpected, those ambiguous moments where we're not always in. He's calling back in. Yeah, those ambiguous moments where we never know what's going to happen.
Hello.
Hello. Just
let's roll with it.
We're doing a good roll. Good roll. Yeah.
It's like, goodness, what was that all about? Anyway.
Well, it was what it was. So becoming conscious takes practice. Yes.
It does, and every experience we have is an opportunity to experiment. It's an opportunity to be open to possibilities. It's the idea of being curious of what works and what doesn't. That just like when all of a sudden what happened for me is both of our little windows on the screen disappeared at the same time.
Oh wow!
And so that can't be good, right? And I don't know if you heard anything I said.
No, I did not hear it.
I said hello. So I wonder if this happened to you too. This could be bad, and but no big deal. I mean, so that's an opportunity to experiment. So I could have jumped up and down and kicked my feet. I could have gone sucked my thumb in the fetal position, or I could have dropped a note in the text box that said hello, I just lost both of us, and that hey, that's just part of the thing. And what would it be like if I experimented and stayed present and calm? It's like you always hear that in an emergency situation. Number one, stay calm, right? Don't kick and scream and yell and all that, right? Stay calm. Stop, drop, and roll, or whatever those other phrases are. So it's just an opportunity to try something new. And I'm getting pretty proficient now, by the way, of coming back when I get kicked off. I opened a new tab. I even have, the Control V is going to paste the link right in. I've got it because I've had to do it so many times this morning. And I closed the other window or the other tab, and boink, there I was 30 seconds later.
Good.
Magic.
Good. So you have a lot going on. We've got a few minutes left here.
Yeah, there is a lot going on. It's fun. One of the things that I certainly preach, and I'm attempting to practice more actively, is really being prioritized about the actions. And staying focused. And I even had a client conversation yesterday. They were struggling with so many things that they have going on at the same time, and let's make the results come. And I talked about, well, if you have more than one clear priority, at least compartmentalize your time so that you can stay 100% focused during that. So like right now, I'm focused here. As soon as we finish here, my work is going to take me on to, I've got two businesses that I'm running. So I've got Win Enterprises, which is the consulting company, and I've got some consulting company work that I need to stay focused in on. And then I also have the Business Consultant Institute, which is training people to position themselves and be really rock star business consultants. And I have some work to do for that. Well, what would be a bad way to coexist is while on the blab with you, hanging out, having a good conversation, if I was even just mentally thinking about my to-do list, right, that wouldn't work very well. Or heaven forbid, if I were clicking in and like trying to respond to texts or send an email or something at the same time, it just doesn't work, right? So you have to compartmentalize and stay pretty focused. It's a challenge, and I get it. But one of the things I experimented with last week, back to life, is just a bunch of experiments. And I think this is going to work out pretty well, is what's the next one thing? I have this whole big list of things I'm working on. And literally, I mean, just here's a snapshot. We've got, from when we did the live event for Business Consultant Institute last in Philadelphia. The power up that we did in Philadelphia, we filmed everybody there, as the same as you experienced the power up in San Diego just a couple of months ago. And so we created are creating a movie, an extended cut version and a DVD version, which has fewer people in it, and a collaboration book from that. And so there's two movies, two versions of the same movie and a book. So that's that one. And then exactly the same process for the San Diego. So that's two books, two collaboration books with two groups of authors. The same is true for the the editing with all of the video clips to turn that into a documentary movie. So that's now two books and two movies, and that's just that business. Never mind, we're doing a live event again in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now. Yep, that's back in the Philadelphia area. This time without the filming, but still executing, because we had a guy. This is awesome. The guy who's sponsoring it, his name's Stephen Roll, said, I can fill the room for you, and we can do it. I'll host it at my facility, because he has a business incubator facility. So a lot of entrepreneurs come, and they may have office space there. They may use his recording equipment, whatever it might be. And so he's trying to grow. So it's like, cool. So because we weren't planning to do another Power Up for quite a while, because we have so many things that we're working on.
Right.
We have our own book that we're in process of writing. We're creating some video training. So they're right there. My illustration, the point of telling you all this is that there's a to-do list of like 6 or 7 major items. Yeah. And that's just one of the businesses. Same order of magnitude in the other business. So how do you do all of that? You got to just stay focused. And what's the next one thing? So it's like, okay, I'm going to pick this one off the shelf and say, all right, I'm going to work on the videos, and here's the next thing that has to happen. And I'm going to stay on it, sink my teeth into it, and not let go until that thing is done. And I can pass that on to the next person, or whatever. So someone else can keep working on it. The next one thing.
Yeah. That is important. I with my clients and even my students at the university, it's like you have to make a schedule, and you have to block that time off. And I use different colors, so I can look at my calendar and just by color know that, oh, that's what I'm doing right now.
Creative type, use colors.
Yeah, so use color. Yeah, use colors. I have words there too, but I use colors. But I know I can just glance. I even schedule my workout time. That's in there. The gym, yoga, whatever I'm doing, that's in there along with everything else. Because
I hope you get a chance to eat.
Yes. Well, I don't really need to schedule that, but I do eat.
Believe it or not, I put on my calendar lunch at 12:30.
That's good.
Because, today, for example, I backed up. So I had, I was with you, and then I had a meeting at the time where I normally eat. So, I could forget to eat. I could be dang hungry, but I could forget to because things are back to back to back to back if I'm not careful. Yeah. So I actually put it in there. Now, obviously it's not one of those meeting times that's not able to be scheduled over, because we do that quite a bit, but just got to be smart about it. Sometimes that works for me. That's something. So back to the self-awareness, back to self-leadership. It's a mechanism that I know that I will sometimes allow myself to get totally caught up in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, it's like, goodness, it's 3:30. I forgot to have lunch. And then it's like, well, do I bother now, or do I just eat at 5? Or do I bother? And then, next thing I know, I'll be eating at 8 because I had lunch so late.
Right.
But so the mechanism for me is to go ahead and just punch that into the calendar, not because I'm going to, so rigidly follow the calendar, but it's a really good reminder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really good reminder.
Yeah. Calendars are good, and there has to be some flexibility and staying focused on that one next thing.
You got it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Consciousness in action, in practice.
Yeah. Consciousness in action.
Well, cool. Well, Pete, thank you. We've rolled through some of these interesting little obstacles this morning.
Yes, we did.
And it was cool. And I always enjoy spending time with you. It's always fun. And
this has been, I really enjoy the format too, because it's just like totally hanging out. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's a hangout. It's a conversation. We're just having a conversation. It's not big, formal, and whatever. It's just like, having a conversation, learning more. Really, I've read your chapters, read your books, been your friend for I don't know how many years now. And lots. Yes. I don't know where the time goes, but here it is. But every time I listen to you speak, even when I was in your power room in April, it's like, wow, yeah, you've got a lot of wisdom to share. I'm glad to help you share it. And until our next time we come together.
Well, virtual high five. Here you go.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. This was great.
All right. Thanks. Take care. Have a great day. Great weekend.
Bye, folks.
Bye. So thanks, everybody. That was the first episode of Ignite Your Leadership. We rolled through some little obstacles this morning, but it happened, and I had a great conversation with my friend Pete. And, we're going to do this again next week. I have a couple of sessions with Amina Makadoon on Tuesday. And she's going to speak on leading change, how to create true, meaningful, and impactful change in your organization. And then on Thursday, I'm going to be speaking with Linda Kidd, who is going to share positivity that works, the heart of employee engagement. And again, it's about showing up and being good leaders and really having that self-awareness and showing up completely, showing up and really being present, even when lots of other things may be going on in our lives. And so thank you. Thank you for bearing with us this my first blab hosting, and we'll see you next time. Take care.